right, Jimmy, that was solid stuff there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Post commercial. Also, make sure you hit us up on our YouTube page. Check out the videos of our facial expressions and stuff as we go through all these conversations. Just hit us up on our website or on any of our social medias. You'll see the link to our YouTube page. Just search Unfair Sports. But anyway, this is something I feel like is really unfair. And I'm going to start doing that more in the show. You'll start seeing a segment called Fair and Unfair. But this is super unfair. So there are 5 quarterbacks in the NFL draft that are really getting headlines right now. You have Trevor Lawrence, who is the number 1 draft pick, period. Zach Wilson, who seems to be the number 2 draft pick. Then you got 3 guys underneath there that are vying for 3, 4, and 5. Potentially. We could potentially have 5 straight quarterbacks drafted as teams are looking to trade out of their positions in Justin Fields, Trey Lance, as well as Mac Jones. And out of all these quarterbacks right now that we're seeing, I've seen a few things talked about it. It seems like only one player is being truly criticized. Like they've been placed under a microscope in comparison to the others. Mm-hmm. That's Justin Fields. And of course, we jump into the stereotypes of the language that you typically hear, more so as we would call them dog whistles, around your black quarterbacks.
Right.
And it seems like a lot of them are starting to come out all of a sudden. Like, we haven't heard any of this stuff before. It's just randomly front office guys are feeling like this is relevant information. And ESPN's Dan Orlovsky a couple weeks ago was talking about some things that he heard. Now, this is what Dan heard about, and he repeated it. So I'm going to give him some credit, some credit to this, that he didn't say any of this stuff that I'm about to repeat. This is what he heard, and he was just saying that this is what people were telling him. Mm-hmm. And so it was, first off, work ethic. Secondly, does he want to play? And then the last one is, gosh, my entire page just closed on all 3 of them that I had pulled up, which is always awesome. But for the most part, it's, does he want to play? He doesn't have good work ethic, and something about his attitude.
And his intelligence.
Has
been questioned.
His intelligence has been questioned. But we haven't seen this with any other quarterback so far, really, in this realm. Now, Trey Lance, the biggest knock on him has been he doesn't have enough snaps.
Right.
Even though he played a whole season, in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, he only played 1 game. He didn't have enough snaps. Mac Jones didn't have that many more snaps than him. But that's where the conversation is. So Justin Fields is doing a second pro day. San Francisco and the New England Patriots are going to be in attendance. They seem to be the only 2 that's going to show up.
Which is weird.
I don't think it's weird. We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
But Jimmy, I have one question for you to start. Why do you feel like Justin Fields is getting all of the criticism and very little of the praise?
I think it's potentially because there are many GMs and scouts who believe he could be the best quarterback to come out of this draft.
Ooh.
So what they're trying to do is depress his value through releasing this critique. I heard someone say, or the word is. They're doing that so that he continues to fall and maybe falls to them. I don't know any team specifically, but the individuals who release information like this to the sports media generally end up being GMs and scouts who work for teams. So none of this is coming out of Ohio State. None of this is coming from the tape that we've seen. None of this is coming from him throwing for 385 yards with a broken rib, when most quarterbacks at any level of football would have called it a night. No, it's not coming from any of that. It's coming for this reason because, like you said, we haven't heard this before about him. We're just now hearing this. If this were true, if this were truly a problem, we would have already known about it. It's not. So there is a reason, but it's not the reason everyone is thinking. I think that they're trying to depress his value. Hell, it could be San Francisco trying to do that, because what if they think it's the Jets who really want him and they want him as well? So maybe by doing this might get the Jets to move back off of him, and get Zach Wilson, or if the Jets do something crazy like trade out of that number 2 spot to a team who like what if they trade with Denver and Denver loves Justin Fields and they get him. Maybe it's for something like that. So what if it's San Francisco depressing his value, helping to further the smokescreen when he's the quarterback they really want? That's the only way it makes sense to me.
I can see that. Denver is one I can't see. Justin Fields isn't John Elway is He's not big enough. Even though he's 6'3", he needs to be like 6'5", 6'6", to feel like he's John Elway. So John Elway wants a quarterback that looks like him.
Elway doesn't know that none of this has worked for him. I mean, forget Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning doesn't count.
Obviously, he doesn't realize this because this isn't his game. But no, I found, like I said, my window closed and then I was reopened. So this is what he said. One, I've heard he's a last guy in, first guy out type of quarterback. Like, not the maniac work ethic. I've even heard it compared to Justin Herbert, where it was like, dude, when Justin Herbert showed up, he was like a psychopath when it came to working and get ready for the draft. Or even at school, like, give me more, I want work nonstop. And I've heard that these are issues with Justin Fields' work ethic. So there's the work ethic piece and all of that. Second thing, whereas the desire to be a great quarterback. There's a desire to be a big-time athlete for what is expressed to me, but where his desire to be a great quarterback, and to be great, you got to be willing to find the things that you are not good at and just freaking grind on them. Questions intelligence, questioning his work ethic, all of that. And like you said, none of this came out of Ohio State. This is all general manager talk, in which now your theory makes a lot more sense. It makes more sense that a team would try to push his stock down to try to get a chance to get him. Because like even Kirk Herbstreit, he called out Dan Orlovsky with this one, called him absolutely ridiculous. Even if you aren't saying it, to pass that along from people in the know is reckless and absurd, and it's embarrassing. And he's right. At least throw out there, take this with a grain of salt. But at the same time, Orlovsky, you are a journalist at this point. You are an investigative reporter. Ask more freaking questions. And you apologize and kind of point that out. I should have gauged more, or I should have asked more questions. Yes. Ask why. Like, why do you think that? Because I promise you, if they would have given you an off the record statement of, well, to be honest, we're trying to get them, but we don't want nobody to know that, you probably would have phrased all of this a lot different in comparison to the way you did. That's just my thought behind it, because you kind of want to help the team with that and not really put them out there.
Right.
But that the whole goal, if their whole goal is to push down his stock value so that a team can draft him, I'm all for that. I'm not going to even knock that. I am here for teams trying to get the player they want by deceiving others. The problem is throwing out these racial stereotypes is where the issue comes in as your way of pushing down someone's stock, because it's literally all the same, I guess you could say, tropes that we hear for everything else when it comes to a black quarterback. All of this stuff is always a thing. They're more so concerned about being an athlete. Not sure if they're the last guy in, first guy out type of guy. They're not a lunch pail type dude. They all of that. They're not deceptive.
Can they make the reads?
Can they make the reads? All of that stuff always comes out when you're talking about a black quarterback, and it's annoying at this point. We've seen black quarterbacks dominate and have those abilities. All quarterbacks that come in as rookies, guess what? Have some sort of a freaking deficiency. They all do. Every single one of them. So why not work better at focusing on what they can do and then talk about the things they can work on without truly insulting someone's intelligence? Because I promise you, there's things that Mac Jones is really good at. And this is going to segue into something else, Jimmy. Who the hell really thinks San Francisco traded 3 first-round draft picks to get Mac Jones at number 3? Please explain that to me. Because I'm going to say this. He has come. This was, and I'm going to give Bomani Jones a big props on this one, because this made so much sense. Kyle Shanahan didn't go for a quarterback before he got Jimmy Garoppolo. And you know why, right? He thought he was getting Kirk Cousins. And if he thought that Kirk Cousins was his franchise quarterback, he ain't no damn genius. But Kyle Shanahan is really good at his job.
Right.
So the fact that he drafted Kirk Cousins in fourth round? Fourth round? He was a fourth rounder.
He was fourth round?
Fourth rounder when he was at Washington.
Okay.
After getting RG3.
Right.
Tells me everything, that he liked Kirk Cousins as an option, but he ain't banking everything on him. And to be honest, a lot of people are trying to compare the Mac Joneses to the Kirk Cousins. Don't do it. Don't. Mac Jones is a late first-round pick. He is definitely an NFL quarterback. He is not a game changer. And the problem you're going to run into is twofold that your 49ers have already seen. Number one, if Kyle Shanahan is your quarterback, you're going to lose. Ask Sean McVay. Number two, you need a quarterback that can do his own thing in the playoffs. Hence, like I said, number one, if Kyle Shanahan is your quarterback, you got a problem.
Kyle Shanahan?
Yes.
Yeah. You said if he's the quarterback?
Yes, if he's your quarterback, as in he is telling the quarterback what to do, like
Yeah,
Sean,
I see what you
like Sean McVay did with Jared Goff.
Well,
you can't have your coach be your quarterback. He can't be playing Madden out there. That's my point.
I think that a big part of, again, why you hear Mac Jones being the lock to San Francisco, that's a part of the plan. That's a part of the smokescreen I think they're putting out because they don't want people to know who they're truly coming after because you said it. When you essentially trade 3 first-round picks, you trade them to move up for a quarterback who can be transcendent. And the only ones who have transcendent qualities, honestly, are Trey Lance and Justin Fields.
Right.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence is not going to be there. We know that, et cetera. So you don't do that for that reason, first of all. Second of all, they were in on Deshaun Watson before all this civil stuff started happening.
Yep.
Which makes him untradeable now. They were in on him. So if he had an issue with that type of a quarterback, they wouldn't have been in on Deshaun Watson. And 3, if Kyle Shanahan has a fraction of the intelligence we think that he has, he knows that when you take a quarterback like a Matt Ryan or Jimmy Garoppolo into a Super Bowl, that when your game plan has been figured out by the second half, and they have no second move, they have no curveball, there's nothing else they can do, they have no extra dimension to their game, you're going to lose. Even if you're up 28-3, you are going to lose the game. He knows that. So he cannot go into another Super Bowl with a team that can compete for one if they stay healthy with a quarterback like Mac Jones, and obviously with a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo, who's just an older Mac Jones, who cannot move.
Yep. And I'm going to say this to you, all of our listeners that are, if you're even just a casual or even the diehard, there's something you have to understand. I ain't the smartest man in the world. I'm, y'all will say that to my face, and I have no problem with that because I will smile at you and say you're right. But there's something I do know. There are levels when it comes to playing in professional sports, and those levels have very razor thin margins in between them. There can be, but when you get to the 1%ers, the gap is massive, especially at the quarterback position. Quarterback can put up all kinds of numbers. Jimmy Garoppolo put up numbers. Kirk Cousins always put up numbers. Matt Ryan won MVP. There's numbers that can be put up, but the very razor thin things that you don't pay that much attention to as a casual sports fan is the difference maker between a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a non-Super Bowl winning quarterback, between a starting quarterback in the NFL and a backup in the NFL. They're there. You got to see that. It's hard to see it with the untrained eye. I am starting to pick up on more of it. There's certain things that you have to understand, and this is the reason why Kirk Cousins is not a franchise quarterback. No shade to, well, I mean, it's 100% shade to him, but he puts up numbers, but there's a thing to it that tells you that he is not your future. Hence why San Francisco's looking to move away from Jimmy Garoppolo, who went to a Super Bowl. Because a Super Bowl quarterback does not throw only 9 passes in a playoff game. Period.
Exactly.